My name is Anastasia, and I'm here with Chris Bardon, our Chief Software Architect from ComputerTalk. And today we just wanted to dive into everything AI.
Everything AI. Okay, let's go. How many hours you got?
Just a few minutes here.
All right, quick questions. Let's go.
All right. Could you provide some insights into how AI is used in the customer service space?
Sure. So AI has actually been around in the customer service space for a long time. So, if you think back, you've got things like, the I in IVR is intelligent, right? So, rules-based engines to route things to agents, kind of gave way to things like text-to-speech and speech recognition. So, that kind of thing has been around in the customer service space and in the contact center space, in varying degrees of sophistication for years now. Some other things that you'll see is things like natural language IVR. So rather than giving you like regimented call flows, you're actually able to ask just, hey, how can I help you, right at the very top of a conversation, and route that based on an intent. So there's a lot of interesting things that have been percolating over the years with AI in the contact center space. What really changed in the last 12, 18 months is the rise of kind of more generative AI apps, and that's really, it's doing two things. It's enabling new capabilities, and it's also letting us do things we could already do just better.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So it's enabling some new enhancements on existing functionality. But
Yeah, that's great. Thank you. So going to the next question, where do you see the future of AI or generative AI going?
sure. So that's really interesting. Like, I think, so one of the things when I was saying you could do things better. One of the things I think you can do that's really interesting is generative AI models are really good at not just generating language, but understanding language. So the analogy I kind of like to use is back in the day when you did speech recognition, you sort of had to give a very, very strict list of like, I'm expecting one of these three answers, or I'm expecting it to match this format. And then you could map to an intent. Or, you could do something where I'm doing dictation, but I'm doing dictation with a known voice that I've trained it. You used to have to, like, here's a paragraph of text you have to read to get your computer to understand you. But now speech rec has gotten to this kind of generalized state where I can just sort of have, any speaker say anything, and I can transcribe it. And then GAI kind of goes one, if you take it into the analytics space where you're trying to unlock information about your calls, that really makes it more generalized. So it has the possibility to democratize some of this, to say I can just ask the question I want, like, did this agent, was the sentiment on this call positive? Did this agent answer the caller's question on their first call? Like, was this a first call resolution? That's what people really want to know. But instead of having to go through some, again, fairly arcane mapping to figure out how to do that, it's just you can ask your questions in natural language. So that's one area. I mean, I think for generating, the virtual agent question is a really interesting one. I think there's, we're going to get there.
Yep.
Where I can start, and you can already build bots that are deflecting traffic from human agents. I mean, but like IVR was designed to do that, right? And so it just takes those applications and makes them more sophisticated. I think what you're going to see is it able to learn more about how things could be personalized. So it's going to be able to give responses that are relevant to what your situation is, as opposed to just your generic response. It's also going to be able to. We're also going to be able to assist our agents a lot better. So think about the case where I have an AI that can coach every agent on every call, right, and offer suggestions about what to respond with. What might be relevant. Previous case history and stuff. Like, time is money at that point, and so being able to surface that information in a format that the agent can quickly digest on the fly is, that's kind of the goal with a lot of this stuff. And it's using existing technologies that are already there, but it's adding the generative AI layer onto it to put it in that format that you need right now. So it's going over a very large set of data to give you a concise answer when you need it.
Exactly. Honestly, generative AI, it's super fascinating. So
Mm-hmm.
I'm excited to see what ComputerTalk is working on fiscal year 2024 too. So
we have some exciting stuff in the works. So
that's great. All right. Last question I have here is, what do you think companies need to take into consideration when thinking of adding AI and generative AI capabilities to their contact center?
sure, and I think there's a lot to think about. I mean, it is an investment, and it's it's not just a financial investment, but it's a time investment, right? None of these applications and none of these services are really a fire and forget service. It's something you deploy, and something you have to evaluate over time, right? So there's tuning that happens. You have to be willing to experiment with it. You have to be willing to say that this is an ongoing process, and sometimes that means you're putting it in front of live customers and learning as you go. I mean, there's a lot you can do ahead of time, but let's face it, it's early days for some of this stuff, and things are going to make mistakes. But in the end, it's going to make everything. I think everything is going to get better, and everything is going to get more successful. I mean, at the same time, though, you have to remember, especially with the generative AI algorithms. None of that is deterministic. And what that means is that the response you get, you can ask the same question 5 times and get 5 different answers.
Yep.
Right. And one of those could be completely out to lunch. So it's thinking about where you use this. Is it something you necessarily want to put front and center, like directly customer facing, or is it something you want to use in your back office? Is it something you want to be assisting your agents? Is it something you want to be able to use to analyze your calls? Because that's where, you can afford the risks outweigh the rewards outweigh the risks rather. You can afford to go and analyze your contacts and find, try and unlock some information. And maybe, you can discard that 10% that's not going to be correct. But, the 90% that where you do get something very useful, that more than makes up for it, and that gap is going to get better. Like, these models are iterating weekly at this point, and there's the possibilities are really out there. But I think it's making sure you have humans in the loop when you have to, and just realizing that yes, this is a technology you have to iterate on to be successful. But if you do that, I think there's a lot more. Like, this is really going to be what unlocks sort of the next generation of contact center.
Yep, definitely. Well, great. Thank you so much, Chris. This was very insightful.
All right.
All right.
Well, thank you.
No problem. Take care.